It's green. Hopefully we'll be back.
Download error.
No?
I wonder if it's something with the browser. Let me quit the browser.
Okay.
Well, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's a browser cache
No, but
issue.
it's like everyone's having the issues, aren't they? Like everyone's saying
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
not just you. Unless it's a Twitch thing. I mean, that sometimes happens. I'll just see if there's any other. It's just weird that it was like totally fine.
It was totally fine, and we didn't do
No,
anything.
I can jump on other streams, no worries. That's so weird.
Here it comes. Well, I'm getting an ad first, so hold on.
Oh, okay, cool.
That is so bizarre, though.
It's honestly, nothing surprises me anymore because I've been through it all. It's very frustrating. The only other thing I could do was just like complete, which I did just before the stream, but restart my entire computer. But it's all from OBS perspective. Oh, Adam's saying it's working. Okay, that's good
we're
news.
back.
If you can see us, okay, good. Because I just had to refresh. Okay, I'll get everyone to hopefully. Sorry, guys. It's really weird because it was looking totally fine, like in OBS. It was all green, no drop frames, and I can see if it's like shooting itself, but looks like we're back. So
we're back.
Okay. Notifications.
Okay, so now let me ask you the question. We were talking in the green room, and I have to. It's going to be hard for me not to ask you questions. I'm so used to it.
Yes. Well, it's fine. It could be a double interview. It's fine. It's all good.
We go. So with this new gig that I'm doing, I know I'm going to have to do soundboard. I hate soundboard. I dislike soundboard, and I hate soundboard with a passion. And did I mention soundboard's bad?
Should we explain what soundboard is for those who are not music photographers, just in case they don't know?
Soundboard is, instead of 3 from the pit, no flash, where you're in between the audience barricade and the stage where security is, you're back where the actual house mixing board is. They also call it front of house.
Yes. And it's literally in the middle. Well, it depends on the venue, but it's like, it's really far back often and kind of like in the middle of the venue. And it's kind of front and center. And you often don't have a lot of space to move. Like you've got a very small section. So everyone's photos look the same if you're shooting from there. What up, Britt? Nice to see you here.
And with Snoop Friday night, the crowd stood up and held their phones up, at which point you're immediately going, okay, how do I shoot? The corral was crowded. So I bought a Sigma 150 to 600 because I knew for this gig that I would end up needing it. I'm curious, when you do shoot soundboard, what do you shoot with?
I only have a 70 to 200, and I've only been in that situation once because I don't shoot, to be honest. I've never really shot a lot for publications. I've usually shot for venues or artists, so it's very rare that I don't have a AAA pass and am able to do my thing. But there's been a couple of times, and Kanye West is one, and I think there was one other, and it was an absolute disaster, to be honest. I got nothing with Kanye. A, because everyone put their hands up, and B, because the whole first 3 songs were red light and smoke, and you couldn't see anything. It was just like a disaster.
Literally a nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, this is pointless me being here. But a lot of the news photographers all had 600s, and I was like, probably need something like that to shoot this show, to be honest.
I rented through Canyon Professional Services a 400 2.8. Tried it on a monopod. It was a pain in the butt, so I handheld it. My elbow was killing me.
Yeah, they're heavy.
Oh my God.
I don't think I would be able to hold it.
Insane. But
all the ones I've seen, they've got... Right. And did you have a monopod for the 600, or you were right?
No, this thing is so light. It was almost too light. I actually think more weight would make it more stable.
Interesting. I've never shot with a 600, so I haven't really had the need to, but I'd love to try it out. Maybe like in a big arena would be really cool if we're doing a big arena tour or something, and you got to go right up the back and take some shots or something. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to try it out.
It's weird seeing the website scroll across there.
Is it? Yeah. The compression sandwich, yes.
Yes.
So we were talking about, so we kind of went, we were at the start, at the beginning. You started doing some live music photography. How did you, I guess the next question that everybody asks is like, how do you get established? How do you start getting that consistent work, I guess? Because that's really, that's the tricky thing, is really, you know, it's easier to go along and shoot some shows and, you know, but everybody has the dream of touring or working with bands, and that next step can often be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, you know, for me, I think, so I got started, I'm old, and I got started really late. And I think for me, it really helped that I was old enough to understand how important relationships are. Like, I cannot overstate to people, and Adam used to say this all the time on anything that we did together, and he used to mention it. I did some workshops with him, helping him with his music photography workshops. But most bands and artists, and I would argue most people who are going to hire a photographer, venues, marketing people, PR people, they would rather work with somebody that's going to make their job easier, that know they aren't going to have to worry about you doing your job, that are going to like you being around and not mind you in their space, than they would work with an asshole that's a good photographer.
Yeah.
So you're better off
100%.
to be a good photographer and not a great one, but have people like you. And so every show that I shot, I would walk in and say hi to security and get to know them. And the person I would get my pass from, even if it was somebody at a ticket window, but at a lot of the local venues, it would be a PR person that I'd have to deal with, like at a local Indian casino here. And I would say hi, how you doing? Who, you know, I'm with KCAL, whatever. That relationship turned into the first thing that really made me work regularly was at this particular casino, the PR person realized that it was their marketing graphic design people that had to work 9 to 5. And then on concert nights, they'd have to rotate. One of them would have to stay and shoot the concert.
Right.
And he went to the PR person and said, you know, you should really get just a real dedicated photographer and let them go home. And I went in, I sat down, we talked. She made one comment to me that I disagreed with. She said, you know, so, you know, you're shooting for us, so we own the images. And my response to her was, you can own the images, but not for that price.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And her response was, well, what do you need to own the images for? I said, well, you're not paying me a ton. I can license them. I can sell them as fine art technically.
Yes.
She said, are you going to post them anywhere? I said, yeah, I'll post them on social media and give you PR as well. She says, okay. So I own the copyright to all the images, which worked out great because when Jason Bonham was there, I always did this trick. I had all access at the casino because I had to shoot the meet and greets, which were backstage. But I still had normal house photographer rules, which is 3 songs.
Okay.
But what I would do is I watched other people in that scenario take their cameras off after 3, relax, and then watch the show. And I tried to change that. I kept my cameras on and I went and stood on the stage in the wings. And inevitably a tour manager would come up to me and go, what are you doing? And I'd hold up my AA and go, I've got all access. I'm not shooting. I'm just watching the show. And every time they would say to me, no, go ahead, shoot.
Ah, interesting.
And I ended up licensing shots to Jason Bonham because I got shots from on the stage when nobody else
no one else got that angle. Yeah, that's so interesting. Although you've said a couple of things there. One of them is that when the venue said to you that they wanted to own the images, you pushed back, because I think especially a lot of young photographers, they get told something like that and they feel like, well, that's it. I don't have any room to negotiate here. But there's always room to negotiate. Do you hear that from young people as well, or they're kind of like, oh, okay, well then, yeah, they have to own their images?
Well, I know young photographers who, and you've been there, you go to a show, even if you're shooting for a venue, and they put a photo release in front of you. Now, I don't know about Australia, but here photo releases are becoming a little bit more prevalent.
Yes, here as well. Yeah.
And I remember going to photograph, and it always cracks me up because it was Cheap Trick, and there was something that just rang so true about that. When I went to shoot Cheap Trick, and it was, we own all of your photos, and you have to send us all the photos, giving us a worldwide transferable commercial copyright. And I was like, no, that's just not. You're Cheap Trick. You can actually afford me. There's no question.
Yes.
And so I simply refused to shoot the show. And the same thing happened with Pat Benatar, where all of us, even the newspaper guy, called his editor and said,
I was just like, no,
don't make me shoot this show. What I realize with a lot of young people, though, is they actually think that shooting, just being able to shoot, is worth any sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would argue there is, even if you can't, based on just normal laws, right? I can't sell it in a commercial sense. Owning your copyright at some point is really the value of the shot, more than the gig. Owning that copyright is the thing.
I think that young people struggle with it because a lot of people are chasing the thrill of posting to show that they went and shot the show. So there's a lot of validation in the fact that they went to shoot the show, and they're not thinking long term. They're not thinking about what will some of them probably don't even care. Actually, I know that they don't care because I've been told that before. They don't care about it. My argument actually is it's actually bigger than you as an individual. This is actually a photography community issue, and all of us standing up for these types of things, it affects everybody. It's because if you're saying yes now, all that's going to happen is all of our rights are taken, and a lot of people will just stop shooting, and you're going to lose a whole industry of people that put their foot down. So I try and teach that. It's something trying to teach in my masterclass as well, is like, it is actually bigger than you. It's actually a bigger conversation, and just understand. So here's the information to understand why it is. And of course, you can make your own decision after that, but just know that it does actually affect people outside just yourself as well. So
you said an interesting thing, though. You said a really interesting thing, though, and that is, here's the information, you can make your own choice. This is kind of analogous to people arguing never, ever, ever shoot for free. And it's like, look, if you shoot for free most of the time and you think that person is ever going to value your work, you're probably wrong. However, there are times when shooting either inexpensively or for free can get you other gigs if you work it right. And it's the same thing here. Look, if I'm already getting paid to shoot, and I own the copyright to the images, and a particular artist comes in and says, we have to get pre-approval, or you have to send us shots so that we can use them on social media. Okay, I still own the copyright. The only thing I won't do is give up my copyright. But I think it's analogous to shooting for free. And that is, look, if you think that you can, as an example, I shot promo shots for a young artist here in town. His parents said, we're going to pay you $500. I was willing to do it for free. They saw the value in it, right?
Totally.
I think the biggest problem most photographers have, and especially music photographers, is the access is so important to them that the first thing to go is the price. And the analogy I always use was a friend of mine who sold computers. And I walked in one day, I was waiting to talk to him, and he was waiting on a client. And the client literally looked at him. He said, how much is this computer? And he goes, it's $550. And the guy said, okay, I'll take it. And my friend looked at him and goes, you know what, I'll do it for $5. And I'm sitting there thinking, he just said he'd take it for $550. Why did you feel the need to lower the price? And what I try and tell photographers is, your job is to try and make people understand your value, to look at them and say, if you need a guitar, here's the thing, even a bar band, if they need a new Shure SM58, they're going to buy it. If they want a new guitar or new guitar pedals, they're going to buy things they think will further their career.
Yes.
You need to make them understand why your pictures will further their career.
Yeah. Yeah, I love everything that you just said, and definitely agree. I think, and I've spoken about this a lot to, the young people that I mentor as well, in that that hard and fast line about I'll never work for free, or people, even older photographers saying don't work for free, don't work for free. It's taking away the nuance of the situation and knowing when there is,
Yes.
and this is the thing that's hard. It's hard to know when that saying yes to something is going to be of value. And I think, you said you started a bit later as well. I started at 31 as well. So I think there's something in being a little bit older, I guess understanding the world a little bit more and knowing when you're being taken for a ride or you're being ripped off, or this is actually a really, really valuable opportunity. I can see that this relationship is going to benefit me. I'll just, I'll give them some photos in this instance. It's fine. It's, I'll just waive the fee in this instance because they're going to, give me heaps more work. What up, Gypsy J? Nice to see you here. He is a legend indeed. And he's dropping knowledge bombs today, which is great. But yeah, I completely, I really resonate with that. And I think it's also really hard to teach when is that opportunity the right thing to say yes, or when are you actually being taken advantage of? It is a hard thing.
Actually, I have an answer for that.
No.
Here's what I tell people.
Good.
Because I think you nailed it, and that is anytime you go black or white, right? Anytime you say, and there's no shades of gray in between, anytime you say never, ever, ever shoot for free. Well, but if I have an opportunity to be a photo assistant for Joe McNally, well, I'm going to learn a shitload of stuff in a couple of hours. That is value. That is pay. I mean, the old unpaid internship, depending on the scenario, isn't really unpaid if you gain something from it. And that's what I always tell people is you have to decide what your goal is and what value you want back. And if that value is experience, knowledge, I hate the exposure argument because exposure doesn't pay bills, but you know what I mean? If it does get your pictures in front of the right person, then it may be worth it.
There is a very small percentage of times where exposure actually does work, and the artist needs to be really famous and they need to tag you. And if those things happen, you can get a flood of new followers, you can get a lot of people, new eyes on your work, but that's a real small percentage of things. Right. The other times it's usually about relationship building and networking and working, like just doing something for someone and then they'll do something for you. It's that kind of it's that give and take sort of thing, which again is a very hard thing to teach, but
that's the relationship part though.
It's the relationship part. That sure.
Really, people value their friends more than they value strangers, and you can build that value in somebody seeing that you're always there on time. You take it seriously. Like one of the things we were talking about young people before, and one of the things to me that young people misunderstand is you're not a fan person when you're photographing. Like when I do meet and greets for the casino, which the Jerry Seinfeld picture was for the casino, there were so many people I wanted to go, do you mind if I just, grab I'm not there to fan. I'm there to shoot the shots, do the job, and get out. And if somebody says on the team, hey, do you want to get in there, which has happened? Yes. But it's not my position to jump in there and do it. That's the guy right there.
Great.
That is the guitarist right there. That's the one I was saying that his parents decided to pay me anyway.
Oh, great shot, by the way. That's actually, you just said something that I don't think I've ever spoken about. That's a really, really good point about the fanning and like not asking for a picture. But sometimes in those situations, I've been in these situations of doing meet and greets, and I specifically remember shooting the meet and greets for the Jacksons, and of course, like, you're with the goddamn Jacksons, so you're like,
oh my god,
I know. I was like, so I did all of the meet and greets, and at the end they turned to me and said, why don't you have a photo? And I was like, of course, I'm not gonna turn that down. So in that situation, you're like, oh yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, I think also when you don't go in as a fan too, just think about all of the people. And I've learned this, working with artists that have a lot of fans coming up to them. When they just have someone treating them like a normal human being, they actually really like that, because everyone always they're like, oh my God, I love you so much. And nobody ever treats them like a normal person. So if you just speak to them like a human being, they often just really respect that. So Just
Well,
be
and
normal. Just be normal.
I think people learn that quickly when they're around somebody that's famous for any length of time.
Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah.
not, I understand being starstruck. At our mutual friend Adam Elmakias. Um, I'm a member of this place in Hollywood called the Magic Castle, and it's a very elite private club for magicians.
Are you a
And
magician? Wait, I don't know this about you.
yeah,
I didn't know you're a magician.
I'm a hobbyist. That's all I am. I'm no good.
Oh my god!
So
I love.
joined
Wait,
this
can we
club.
just go back? There's an elite club in Hollywood just for magicians.
Elite club in Hollywood. Anybody that's a magician is a member of this club, and a lot of Hollywood, like Jason Alexander, who was George on Seinfeld, performed there because he was into magic before he was an actor. So,
oh my god.
And Gypsy J said Magic Castle is dope. It's a great club, but you have to be a member to get in, or be on a guest.
Or know someone. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So Adam called me. A Day to Remember was in LA with Blink-182. They had a night off. He said they want to go to the Magic Castle. I said, okay, I'll meet you guys there and I'll get you in. He goes, no, I'm not going. And I went, I don't know these guys. It's a famous band. I can't just show up and the end result was, it was a fantastic night. The guys are super nice. Their manager was there. I got to make a relationship with him. He ended up joining the Magic Castle. And so their festival I've been at and had all access before. Once you meet people that are in those positions, you start to realize they're just doing a job like you. Their job is being on stage.
Yeah, they just got a really cool job. Yeah, but they're just people like everyone else.
Just people.
Yeah. And you know, some of them are weirdos and some of them are really lovely, and like you get the mix like you do with normal people. It's like it's so true though. It's and the more you meet, the more you just like you actually just realize they're just ordinary human beings. And
often you'll be surprised that they're normal, everyday families, and kind and generous, and they truly care about their fans. You know, they're not divas is a good way to word it.
Yeah, totally.
Once that happens, you'll be less starstruck and you'll do a better job, I think.
Yeah, totally. And then also too, when you do come up with the divas, because that happens as well, you can also just not again.
Names.
Oh, sometimes they just no names, but like I don't know. Sometimes people are having bad days because I've worked with the same artists on different days and had completely different experiences as well. So just know that yes, they're human. People can have bad days. Energy can be off, you know, whatever it is, you know, especially on tours, you know, it just could be, I don't know, it could be missing family and whatever. So just understanding that, they're all just humans. So I think that's really great to understand. What Britt said, I always say they're just ordinary people who have a talent they choose to share with the world. Exactly, Britt. That's exactly right.
And that's awesome that they get to do that. And I would pay to be able to have that kind of talent.
Really? Would you like to be on stage if you could?
Oh my God, man. It would oh my God. If I could have been the lead singer in a band, I would have been happy.
I feel that.
Yeah. Can you picture it? Could you picture being the front person
I wanted to be a singer. Absolutely. That was like my dream is probably when I was about 18. I wasn't good enough. I can sing, but not like that good. Like not like I'm a pop star.
I have to ask now. You being a singer, who would be the artist that would be the biggest influence on what you would sing?
Oh, Mariah Carey.
Really?
Yeah. I was a massive Mariah Carey fan. That's what,
oh
and that's when
God.
I say I can sing and I can hold a tune and all that stuff, but I'm not Mariah Carey. I'm very self-aware as well. So it's like unless you can sing Mariah Carey type songs like Mariah Carey, why would you bother? Right. You just wouldn't. Yeah. So that was my benchmark, and I think because I am really self-aware, I was like, maybe not. And then it was like when I picked up a camera way later on, and I naturally gravitated towards musicians because I was a musician as a kid. It just made sense because I'm like, I get these people. I feel like I am a musician at heart, and I kind of understand them, and I think it just works. It just kind of works.
What did you play?
Well. I played the Yamaha Electone, which is a keyboard essentially, but like there's like two keyboards, so it's like top and bottom, and bass pedals as well. So it's like quite like an organ, big electronic organ essentially.
I love that.
And
We're learning about you.
Played that for many years. Yes, I think I've showed a video of Electron years ago. Not years ago, but months ago, when on stream once. But yeah, so I think when you're drawn to photography for a reason when you first start out. And you were in radio, like you said. You obviously had a connection to music that way as well. There's a reason that you wanted to start shooting musicians as well. But I'd like to talk to you about another thing that artists really struggle with is confidence, especially dips in confidence when things aren't really happening and you don't feel like you're going to get any work. And how do you push through those moments? Because I know we all go through those, and people deal with those in different ways, I think.
Whiskey and Tears? Wait, is that a country song? If it's not, it should be.
It should write a country song.
I gotta tell somebody in country music that they need to do a song called Whiskey and Tears.
Whiskey and Tears. Oh, that's so funny.
That is such a good question. How do you push through it? I do have that. But before my first night at this new gig, as long as I've been doing live music photography now, and I've been a house photographer before, and I've had AA and been on stage, and yet I was stressed and paranoid for the first night at this gig because we all have also had off nights. We all, even more than an off night, we've all had those nights where there just was no photo to get. Right?
Yeah, totally.
There are shows where I'll camp somewhere. I'll move off to the side. Everybody else is in the middle. It's like you all get that. I'm coming over here. I'm going to have a photo frame itself for me. I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to wait for a photo to frame itself. And I'm going to be ready for it when it does. And there are those shows that you could wait the rest of your life.
And nothing's going to happen.
Nothing's, like you said, the one with Red, right? The band's going to come out and it's going to be all lights on a truss up behind them with no white spotlights. And you can't see their faces. And you're at 6400 ISO. And you've got to be, at 60th of a second at f2.8. And you're not going to get that portfolio shot. And I was afraid that the first night on this new gig was going to be one of those nights. And part of it, I honestly think, I'm going to go back to community again. I don't know why I'm making that circle. That's weird. But my wife looked at me and said, you'll be fine. You know how to do this. And then a friend of mine who gets me a lot of guests for my podcast, and he does PR, texted me and said, I just wanted to wish you luck tonight. You'll kill it.
Oh, I love that.
I think that community of friends knows sometimes that creatives have imposter syndrome and creatives struggle with, are they reaching their creative level? And those good friends will step up and answer them.
Yeah, that's so good. My husband's really good at that. He'll just be like, well, he'll do two things. One thing is he'll be like, don't fuck it up, because he that reverse psychology actually works really well with me.
Oh, that's
like,
good.
This is a big one. This is a big one, Michelle. Don't fuck it up.
This may be the biggest moment of your life.
Yeah. He's like,
relax.
Or he'll sense when I don't need that, and he'll be like, you've got this. You know what you're doing. Welcome, Freaks Incorporated as well. Digital has killed the beauty and surprise that film had. That's an interesting take. I don't necessarily agree with that, to be honest. I feel like digital is... I'm a massive film lover. I've started shooting film recently. What about yourself? Do you shoot much film? I
do not. Okay, I've dabbled in my head with the idea of doing it, and I think I would like to. I met a guy through a mutual friend, David Bergman, that is the tour photographer for The Who. And he's been shooting The Who forever. And he also, when he was a journalist, shot for the newspaper he was at, Stevie Ray Vaughan in Dallas. And it ended up being the cover of The Sky is Crying. And it was filmed.
Awesome.
And so I see what people that I respect, the legends that I respect, the Jim Marshalls and the Baron Wolmans did with film. and so I kind of want to find out, do I suck?
Yes.
And get a film camera?
It's I got a film camera maybe 3 or 4 years ago, just a little 35mm, and I've just got a medium format camera as well. And I was actually showing my last shoot on stream, and I was so blown away. I was like, I literally said, I don't want to shoot digital anymore. I just want to shoot 120 film. So I get what Freak's saying. There's something really beautiful about it, but I think especially with live music photography, I can't even imagine shooting live. I mean, the stuff that I'm shooting is all portraits and press shots for artists. It's not live stuff at all. I can't even imagine. Like, Chris Cafaro, who I'm really good friends with, talks about this. He's like, you kids have got to get out there and shoot a gig on film. Like, that's, manual focus, and like he did back in the day. Like, that's when it would be really hard trying to shoot a gig with film. But Freak said when you think this film isn't right or the light isn't right, and then you develop it and print, and oh my God. I do love that. And I've also had something happen recently where I was shooting a bunch of press shots that the majority were film, and just at the end, I shot a bunch of rolls, but right at the end of the day, the last roll of film, which is where we got the best stuff, the 35mm camera, the back flew off it and exposed the film. And I was like, oh my God, like, that's it, the film, the film's dead. But I sent it off to get developed anyway, and it was just these beautiful light leaks that just look amazing. And when we posted it, all the fans were like, what filters are you using? And I'm like,
did you put
that's one of the best happy
on your lens?
Yeah, it's like one of the best happy accidents ever. Awesome.
I kind of agree with the digital has killed the beauty and surprise, and yet I don't. And here's why. If you're chimping at your screen so much during a show that everything that's on that camera, we'll say that camera roll, but on your card,
on your card,
I would argue you're doing it wrong. Yeah, chimp now and then to check, but if you're really chimping through your pictures constantly, then I would argue that your head's not in the right place. And at that point, when I bring them up in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever software you're using, I think then that surprise is still there. And in some ways it's still there more because most photographers aren't going to develop their own film where they have the control in the darkroom to do things. They're going to send it off and have it developed. Whereas I effectively am developing mine. I get to dodge and burn mine. I get to, correct or process or do any tricks.
Or save sometimes where you're just like, something's completely blown out and you can pull it back in, and
exactly.
That's a nice little surprise.
Are still there. And what I think people don't realize what people used to do on film. If you go, I wish I knew the link, but if you Google, marked up old film or something like that, you'll see the old James Dean and Muhammad Ali shots, the negatives, where the photographers have used a marker and marked on the negative, +3, -1/3.
Interesting.
It's amazing what they did in a traditional darkroom, and we have that ability too. So
that's really cool. I love that answer, and I agree with you. I think, and there's, now that I'm shooting both, I see there's something beautiful about both mediums. And the one thing I think it's really consistent is the fact that there's something so special about photography in that you are freezing a moment in time. And I think that's why I love it so much, and I love it way more than I'm not interested in video or moving images. It's just like, it's totally different for me. It's just, I don't have that passion. So
I'm so glad somebody else feels that way.
Did you go try and get into video?
Oh, you have to know video nowadays. And in certain areas, if you want to be a tour photographer with a certain band, you may have to be a multimedia artist. Okay, cool. Yeah. For me, I said to another guest on the podcast the other day, I said, I'm not going to call what you do photojournalism, because I think that would be an insult to photography. It's not photojournalism. It's just journalism. You can tell an entire story with a frozen moment in time, if you want to, and if you're smart enough to try and tell a story with your photos. I think that you can do amazing things with a frozen moment in time. A perfect example, try freezing your DVR. Because when you do, you'll never get the news anchor like this. You'll always freeze somebody's face on TV like this. Right?
What up, Big Easy? Thanks for the stream. Thanks for joining us in the stream today. That's so true. I could just completely agree with everything you just said. Then I think that a lot of people are pushing people to do both, and there was a moment where I was trying to do both, and it just wasn't for me, and I've gone back to stills. So that's a great question, Connor. How do you like telling a story or a moment in your images, Steve? I was actually just going to touch on that. That's something that I actually aim for with getting that shot from the show that makes someone feel like they were there. If they weren't there, it makes them feel like they were there. That's like the aim of taking a great concert photo, I think. How do you go about doing that?
I completely agree, and I would add one thing. For me, it's twofold. The perfect concert photograph to me is all about the moment, not at the expense of the technical. I mean, you want your shot to be technically accurate if you can, but if you blow out a highlight or if it's a little bit soft, the right moment can overcome that, and to me is more important than that. So I like to do what you do, which is I want to make people that see a photo do one of two things, and that is either, oh, I remember being at that show, or, oh, I wish I
was there. Yeah.
But the other thing I like to do is try and take angles people don't do.
Yes.
And like when I have been on stage, which isn't as common as a lot of people, but when I have, I try and frame shots in such a way or take weird shots. Like I used to at the one venue, when an artist would walk out of the dressing room towards the stage, they were backlit and they'd always be silhouetted because they'd be walking up towards where the stage mix was in the wings, and it was all the lights were off.
Yeah.
So I would photo them as a silhouette so that you could say to people, who do you think this is? Who's about to take the stage? And I like to take pictures that make people look at it sometimes and go, oh, that's what it's like back there.
Yes. Yes,
I
love
the stuff
that.
They can't see. I like to let them see the stuff they'll never get the rights to.
Yeah. I really love that as well. I think that's one of the reasons I love being on tour is less about the stage stuff because, there's lots of different angles and ways you can, photograph the same show, but it's the in-between moments. It's the backstage. It's the getting ready. It's the really beautiful ways that people warm up or, they're quiet in certain moments. And that's what I love. I love photographing those backstage moments. So it's, super
plus you get different, going back to the still moment. I was at Self-Help Festival. I'm on stage. I think it was the band Periphery that was on stage. And for a split moment, the lead singer turned around, walked over to the guitarist, and hugged him with his head over his shoulder and just kind of smiled at me as he hugged the guitarist.
Oh, wow.
Those are those moments that, the audience saw it but didn't see it frozen. Mm-hmm. That's what I absolutely loved.
I love that. Yeah, I was just asking Freaks where are you based in the world? And
what did Freaks also say? I used to love taking photos of the crowd. So many good shots. Okay, so here's a question for you. I love that Freaks brought this up. Okay. I tell people during workshops, because I firmly believe at least 60 and more likely 80% of any show is the audience, right? We've all been at shows trying to photograph an audience. We can't get a good picture of them for the life of us, partially because the audience is either empty, and there's 3 people out there, or the audience is dead, and the artist isn't getting any feedback. But when the audience is alive, it changes the performance. I believe 80% of any show is the audience, so I always turn around and photograph the audience.
Yeah, we when we were on tour with Rule last time when we did the world tour, we actually made it a big part of. So we did a tour book of each territory. So there was and it was specifically for photos of that territory, and a big part of that was fan photos and just allowing them to see themselves and just how. Because there would be girls screaming and crying and hanging off banisters and all, and that was a really big part of what we did for that tour. And I love doing that. I love being able to document these, the fans that are such a big part of, you know, everything that we do. Like we can't do what we do if fans don't buy tickets. They're, you know, they're such a big part of the whole industry. So Aubrey, Australia, what up? I'm from Shepparton originally, so not that far from you actually. When I was doing band photography, I was doing my BA in photography at Charles Sturt University. That's in the ACT, is it? Freak?
Okay,
so I grew up
what's
not
ACT?
that far. It is the Australian Capital Territory, so Canberra.
Okay.
I think that's where Charles Sturt University is. And Aubrey's right on the border of Victoria and New South Wales. And so I live in Victoria, which is like down south, and it's New South Wales is heading up towards Sydney. So he's right on, or they, I actually don't know their gender, right on the border there. So yeah, good spot of the world, good part of the world there.
Someday.
Yes, you are. You're coming to visit us.
I would love to visit Australia sometime.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, we open up our borders and we're actually allowed people from overseas to visit, and we're allowed to leave. That would be wonderful.
Could you imagine
we're literally
saying
stuck.
that a year and a half ago? You would have never imagined saying that a year and a half ago.
Especially, first of all, especially as an Australian, because it's like a rite of passage. Like we travel. That's what we do. We're so far from everything. We all travel. So the fact that none of us have traveled is really weird. And it's such a big part of my life now is touring. And no way did I feel like 2 years of touring would be gone like that. So it's been very interesting. But anyway, we're gonna have a look at some of your personal work. But what's your favorite stuff that you like to shoot? What's if you had to choose? Would it be live music, or do you like shooting portraits, or do you have not really a preference?
No, I consider myself, I mean, I love shooting fight photography. I've done martial arts for years and years on and off, but I started martial arts way back in 1985. Cool. And so I'm very invested, and I am at the dojo for karate a lot. And I have friends who fight in kickboxing and Muay Thai and K1 and things like that. So I love photographing that.
I have a dream in my head to be an amazing kickboxer. It's not a reality, but that's what I like watching MMA, and especially like watching girls fighting. It's not in my, I'm not inclined to do that at all. My husband's just like, you would get beat up. And I'm like, I know, but in my head, I would love to be able to do that. So it's a great skill to have.
and MMA is wonderful because I just do karate and some Aikido and some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but very little of the last two. But you know, MMA mixes them all, and when it's done well, it's beautiful to watch.
It really is. It really is.
So I love shooting that, but I call myself a live music photographer. For me, there is this magic moment. Oh, Terrell's in the room.
Hey, dude. Terrell, great question. We'll get to that in a sec.
I call myself a live music photographer, and part of it is, you know, when you're in a photo pit, anybody in here that shoots music is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. You're in a photo pit, and the band hasn't come out yet. And the crowd is just talking, and you're sitting there looking at your phone, and then it's like 30 seconds, a minute maybe, before the band hits the stage. And there is an energy in that room.
Ooh. Just got goosebumps thinking about it.
That changes. You can feel the audience is ready before the band hits the stage.
Oh, I
that
miss
is
that
a
feeling.
Magic thing to me.
Oh my
magic
God,
to
I
me.
Miss it.
And so for me, it's funny. I was going to say this shot because I have my screensaver on here.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to see, but like that's.
Oh yeah.
But
there was a little.
I love live music. I love capturing those moments that happen on stage that really deserve to be frozen in time. That's my favorite thing.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And I think anyone that's shot live music, that story totally resonates. That feel, I miss that feeling. I literally just got goosebumps thinking about it. I miss that feeling so much. It's really beautiful. I'd love to answer Terrell's question. What's your thoughts on that?
So a
cat
cat
me,
like me who probably won't have access, what kind of shot am I looking for from the soundboard?
I want to argue with Terrell because I want to get them access. Like, that's the point of what I like to teach, teaching them to get access.
Thank you.
But let's just say, for argument's sake, this particular show, you're at the soundboard. What are you looking forward to get in those shows?
So number one,
it's a great question.
That's a fantastic question. Terrell is a fantastic sports photographer, like really
awesome.
good, based in LA. But for me, from the soundboard, inevitably there is, and often literally shoulder to shoulder, because you're stuck in front of the soundboard in a very small area, and they don't want you to affect the guy running the sound mix, so you can't block their view. And you think you're all going to get the same shots. So what I try and generally do is I think the plane that I want to shoot on, not just the subject that I want to shoot. And I also go heavy on different compositions. So most people will either try and zoom way in and get just on the artist, or they'll shoot a 15 millimeter fisheye or a 16 to 35 or something like that, wide angle, but that's not fish, and they'll get the whole arena. I want to get all of that. Like, I want that tight shot. I want the wide shot of the venue, but I also try and shoot something where there is the artist that I'm focusing on and negative space. I want to show the breadth and depth of the stage while also close up on the artist. And here's the thing, people, I joke that I hate soundboards, and the truth is I hate soundboards. But it should be said, soundboards have advantages to a pit, huge advantages to a pit. It's called geometry. When I'm in a photo pit, I am shooting up somebody's nose often. Or if it's a young lady singing, I have to be aware that it's a lady on stage that might be wearing a short skirt. I have to be aware how I photograph that person, whoever it is, male or female. I have this firm belief. It's when all the hullabaloo came out about, Beyonce at the Super Bowl, and they were mad because the picture was bad. I have this firm belief that, look, if I'm in a photo pit photographing you, the odds are I respect you as an artist. And if I respect you as an artist, I have an obligation to try and show photos that are flattering. Now, that's not always easy, right? A Devil Wears Prada.
That's part of our job.
No shirt and his belly hanging over his belt, and he doesn't really care. I don't know what he considers flattering. It's hard sometimes, but you want to try and be flattering. But here's the advantage. When you're at a soundboard, like when I shot Van Halen, I have pictures of Alex Van Halen at the drum set, and it looks like I'm looking straight at eye level. I can't get that in a pit. So
that's so true.
My answer to Terrell would be use the geometry to your advantage.
That's a great point. Freak said it's all about the angles. Absolutely. That's such a great point about the flattering angles too. I remember years ago having a massive, massive argument with a photojournalist about this topic, and he was like vehemently like, no, I don't give a shit what the person looks like. It's all about the action and the passion, and it's not about how flattering it is. And I'm like, have you ever met any performers? Because I work directly with artists, and I know, male or female, how devastated they are if they see a bad photo of themselves, and it actually affects them psychologically. And if you knew these people, you would know that. And I literally have spoken to people who are, so devastated where the most unflattering photo they've ever seen of themselves, and they've got to go on show, and then they're really they don't want to be thinking about that. And it's very easy not to post a bad photo as well. If you think that you wouldn't post that of yourself, be like, when it's a bad photo. Just have some tact.
And the other thing is, if you want to get anywhere, you don't do that. I did one, and again, it's you don't always know, right? I mean, different people have different...
You don't always know.
We all have multiple self-esteems. You may be super confident in what you do for a living, not confident in your relationship, right? We all have different self-esteems. If you look at an artist and have any respect for them, you want to play to their strengths and make them look good and like the performer that they are. And I had one time where I made this black and white picture of a guitarist, And my God, man, it was awesome. It was the most bitchin' picture I'd taken in a year. And I posted it on Instagram, and I happened to be friends with their tour photographer. And by the way, the artist liked it on Instagram. Tour photographer messages me and says, they didn't really like that picture. You might want to take it down.
Yeah.
And they didn't ask him to do that. He just happened to know that they didn't like it and decided to tell me that they didn't like it. And I took it down. And it bothered me forever. Like, I don't know what they don't like about it even. I loved this silhouette shot. You can't always know, but you got to try. And if you make a mistake, own it.
And also just having respect when that happens, to just take it down immediately, remove our own egos from it, because that is it. You just have to be like, okay, this has actually got nothing to do with the photograph. This has everything to do with how they see themselves in the photograph.
Right.
And maybe somebody's, I don't know, they've put on a little bit of weight, or they're feeling a bit insecure, or whatever. We don't know. So it's just like,
they could be in the middle of a divorce.
Exactly. Like you don't know. Yeah. And what you said before about
I love what Little Brit said.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's so true as women. We're ultra critical of ourselves because kind of society's ultra critical of us as well. So it's like we have that additional burden. But you said something before about your own reputation as a photographer. Something that I know from artists, they're like, I hardly ever remember any photographers, but I remember the ones that post bad photos. So remember that as well. They will remember you. So yes,
did you see Janelle Marie? You're the photog. It's your job to make them look good. That's what they're hopefully paying you for. And I would argue, if you're shooting, if nobody's paying you, if you're one of those people shooting for free, it still matters, right? Have your own, I don't want to use the word ethics. That's the wrong word, but I guess it's the only word I can think of. But have your own baseline for what's an acceptable photo. And, we talk about women being comfortable, and that's true, but it's not limited to females.
It isn't. It's not. And I've heard the exact same things from males that I've toured with, and I've actually only toured with men. So I've heard those same comments as well. If they see a bad photo, it really does affect them. They're just like, why? I remember one rapper that I toured with years ago. He showed me a photo and he was like, why would she post this? It was a young photographer. He's like, I don't understand why is she trying to make me look bad? And I'm assuming she's not trying to do that. She's just young and inexperienced, but it does really affect them. So it's just
here's
knowing
the thing.
That they're human.
This goes to when people say, why do artists want to pre-approve pictures? Which I also don't always like. I mean, if you're a tour photographer, it may be a collaborative thing, and that's great.
Yeah.
But when I shoot as media and I have to send my shots in for pre-approval, sometimes that does feel awkward. But here's the thing. An artist is their brand, right? It's not like you're an employee at McDonald's, but McDonald's is the brand. If you are Dave Grohl, you are a brand, and you have... your management, I should say, has a responsibility to protect the way your brand appears to people. That's completely valid.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I completely agree with you, and it's why I don't mind that. The approval process thing doesn't really bother me. It only bothers me is, when it takes 2 weeks and you're like, well, what's the point now? Like, that's really annoying.
I've only had that happen once.
They are pretty quick, I have to admit. The turnaround's pretty good. It's only ever happened to me once as well. So, and it's frustrating when that happens, but yeah. But anyway, I've taken up like over an hour of your time. Does anyone in the chat have any last questions for Steve before we let him go about his evening? It's getting quite late there. Where do you live again? I forget, which coast are you on?
I'm in Southern California. I'm like halfway between LA and Palm Springs, like almost exactly halfway between LA and Palm Springs.
Amazing. Well, that's a good spot to be at the moment during summer.
The heat is crazy. But other than that...
aren't you guys going through a massive heat wave at the moment? I saw something pop up on Twitter the other day that's really hot there at the moment, apparently.
Yeah, it's, Death Valley, which is, like, I go to Vegas a lot. It's 3.5 hours from here. And Death Valley is about halfway, hit 130. Fahrenheit.
Oh my God, what's that?
So I don't know what that is
Celsius,
but it's.
I need to work it out. 130. Let me. I need to compare. Okay.
Connor, thank you for being here, man.
What? That's crazy. That's 54
what is it? What is
degrees.
Celsius?
54 degrees Celsius. I mean, the most I've ever felt in my life was 48 degrees, and that was my wedding day. It was the hottest day in Victoria ever recorded, and that was, you couldn't even be outside. So 54, that's another like 6 or 7 degrees. That's like
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
You can't even be outside. That's wild. Oh well, all those people that are denying climate change, just like, it's getting pretty hot, guys. We can't be outside anymore.
Yeah. It's
this is wild.
We've put the billboard up a whole bunch of times. It's hot.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Britt's got a great question. If you could shoot anyone dead or alive, who would it be? That's a great question, Britt.
Oh, that's easy. That's super easy.
Oh.
Zeppelin. Hands down. I was lucky enough to see the Robert Plant tour the first year that he was willing to perform Zeppelin solo, and got meet and greet for that through radio.
Yeah.
And it was like this, and that's why Jason Bonham to me was a big deal, because I'm a huge Zeppelin fan. And James Dillon, the lead singer for Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin experience, is amazing. Other than that, I've shot a lot of the people that I would care about. I mean, I've shot everybody from classic, Frampton and Stephen Stills to, Hart is amazing live. I love rock. I mean, so, you know what? And I was going to try this literally was it June, May? No, April. It was last April. We were supposed to fly up to Portland because Rage Against the Machine was doing a reunion tour.
Oh my God.
With Zach. And I'm like, oh my God. So
that's like
I reached out to the arena in Portland and said, I'm interested in PhotoPass. Well, we've got you on the list. And then COVID hit.
Oh God. COVID.
Photographing, I shot Prophets of Rage, but to shoot Zach.
Prophets of Rage would also be dope. I love that. That'd be awesome.
Oh, they were great. They were fantastic. Yeah. You had Chuck D, who was amazing to shoot.
Yeah.
And then, I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I've shot Public Enemy a little while ago. Yeah. Who else is in Prophets? Is it, there's one other group, isn't there? COVID is the gift that keeps on giving. We're really feeling it in Australia at the moment. It's like, it's quite triggering. It's really triggering. I don't know if you want to answer the other question from Freaks, because often we don't like to name worst experiences.
I would not do that. Yes, have I had artists?
Yeah.
I had artists that were bad to shoot? Well, I will say this, because it's common knowledge, and that is Marilyn Manson gives you one song, and it can be hard sometimes to do,
what
one
you need to do.
Song.
Yes.
And I've seen Marilyn Manson go crazy on stage when I wasn't shooting. I was there. We were supposed to shoot. We got the passes revoked at the last minute. And everybody knows the Marilyn stories, and it's true. Still great to watch live. The worst nightmares I've had, though, were probably meet and greet type stuff or behind the stage type stuff. And I would never name their names, but there are some strange stories where somebody was mad that the back of the arena, the hallways had 8x10s of all these artists and didn't have an 8x10 of this artist, and literally said, why don't you have my picture up there? What they didn't realize was there was a full-size tour poster just around the corner on the wall.
Oh my God, the ego, calm down. Because I guess we were talking about before about how, the majority of artists are just human and often really lovely, and then occasionally you run into those with really big egos.
And some of them have reputations, but again, I always try and say to myself, this particular artist has been backstage for 15 years. They've done meet and greets for 15 years. They've had idiot photographers like me take pictures of them, and they didn't like the way that I was standing. I mean, they've done that for 15 years, and I get it, right? Maybe it's time to retire. Maybe just tonight you're frustrated, but whatever.
Yeah. I've only had, to be honest, I've definitely had a couple of bad experiences, but they've been pretty few and far between, thank God. Not too many bad ones. Often my worst stories are always with security guards. So I've got so many horror stories. Yeah, I've had just really bad experiences with. Apparently, I don't look like I belong, so I just get hassled.
No, you know what's interesting that you say that? Like, I walk in and I make friends with security guards, and every band, like if there's 3 bands, I leave the pit and fist bump somebody and say thank you for what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But I have heard, and I'm not saying it's the case, I don't know, but I have heard other females that say, well-known tour photographers, like world-renowned tour photographers, say that security treats them different than men, and they've had to yell back at security.
Yeah, I mean, I've had examples where I've got colleagues of mine that are men not be removed from spaces that I've been removed. We've got exactly the same pass, and I'm saying I'm shooting for exactly the same artist, and I've been forcibly removed. Like, there's been examples where I'm like, okay, I don't like to gender stuff. I actually don't like to do that. I'm pretty dead against it, but there's just been really blatant examples where it's been kind of thrown in my face. So it's like, okay, try not to take it personally, but it can definitely get to you, that's for sure. How do you well, that's a big, I know politics like a band's actions offstage say, good questions. How do you deal with that? And would you still shoot the band, for example, singer who's making a racist comment? Well, that's a great question.
I even have an example. It's a well-known time when at a concert here in Southern California, the lead singer of a well-known rock band walked by a female photographer as they were up like this, turned around and went back and kicked her camera into her face.
I know who you're talking about.
And
I remember this.
Then afterwards apologized and said, it was an accident, which on the video it clearly wasn't. And I swore I'd never photographed that band until I went to photograph Iggy Pop, and they were the backup band for Iggy Pop.
Right.
And I will answer your question in that it bothered me. Like, I had promised myself I would not photograph that band, but I wanted to photograph Iggy, and it bothered me because, again, humanity first.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it would depend exactly what the situation was. Like, if it was like a sexual assault thing or something like that, and like, forget about it. Like, it's a hard no. There's definitely, but for example, there's a big band in Australia, you would probably know who I'm talking about, Brit, that's had lots of like racist and things happened. Again, that's a no from me. So I think it definitely depends on the situation, but I think we all have to make our own kind of moral judgments in that. I tend to sometimes I've heard after something after I've worked with the band, and it's like I can't really do anything about it now, but I've already worked with them and that sort of stuff, but if you know of the situation. But again, like, I probably wouldn't judge people that decide to do that as well, because like making an income doing what we do is really difficult. So if someone's taking a paycheck, there's also that argument. So
you have to have your own moral baseline, and everybody does.
Yes.
And
yes.
There's nothing wrong with you having a different relationship with the world than I have with the world.
Yes, and I tend to try to not judge. Yeah, totally. Just on your freaks, you were just saying I'd like to make. I would always make friends with the security. The situations that I've had with security, it's not. I always make friends with security as well. It's always like the head security. It's always someone else that's like off to the side, or they weren't. That wasn't the person that I met or something. It's always a different person to the person that you've introduced yourself or whatever. It's never the person that you met. It's never the head security or anything like that. And, some of the arena shows, there's 50 people, so you don't know who you're going to run into. So it can be difficult in those situations, and it's just frustrating.
Here's a trick. Here's a trick for you. Yes. Find the guy, like where we are, usually it's the yellow shirts are standard security and the blue shirts are supervisors. So I always make a point to go up and meet a supervisor. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm here for so-and-so. Hope your night goes well. And then if something happens from somebody else, I'll simply say, obviously something's gone wrong. Is there a way we can get this person's name,
whatever his name is,
involved? And inevitably, sometimes just dropping the name helps, and other times it may mean that person comes and gets involved.
Yeah, totally. I've had this situation where a guy was like, my my supervisor didn't let me know. And I said, well, your supervisor knows about me, so go speak to him and come back. And then he came back and he was like, you're fine. And I'm like, I know that. I've already had the conversation. So
I've got a tattoo that says I'm fine.
Yeah. Britt was to say, would you still share those photos if you didn't know about them when... I guess it's, Britt, I think it's really... really circumstantial.
To me, the photos are completely separate from the person.
Yeah, and also too, Britt, like, just, you know what our industry is like. Our industry is quite insular, and if it's a specific band that I think that you're talking about, I would personally distance myself from them because I think you would get unnecessary flack that you don't really need to deal with because they're kind of known as being troublemakers. But I don't know, I can talk to you about that offline if you've got a specific situation as well. Bill, how are you? Nice to see you.
There's Manson. I just realized you've got Manson up on there.
Oh, I do, yes, absolutely.
Bill Nash, nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Bill. What's your favorite club or big venue?
Ooh, I don't like the shooting at the Whiskey. It's just a really weird layout. There's no pit. You're up quite often on the stairs or up the stairs. My favorite venue to photograph is probably the Greek Theater in Los Angeles because the stage is like 3 foot high. There's no pit. Okay. Usually you're right in front of the front seats, but you're there for 3 songs and you say, "Excuse me, I'll be gone really quickly." But the stage is so low. I love the Greek Theater. And then other than that, San Manuel Amphitheater.
I've shot at the Fonda before.
5 Point Amphitheater. I love 5 Point Amphitheater.
Oh, 5. Okay, yeah. I've only shot at the Fonda in LA. That was really lovely. Yeah, that was a lovely theater.
Who'd you shoot?
Oh, Rule. When we were touring with Rule, he performed there. He did 2 shows there, actually.
That's a great venue.
It was a beautiful venue. He did 2 back-to-back sort of shows, like a 6 and an 8 o'clock or something. It was wild. There was like crowds around the whole block, and it was like a whole thing. It was really awesome. But that's a great venue. That's the only one I've shot in LA though. Which is
Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, great spot. Bill's just asked, what was the most difficult shot you've ever published? One that you caught that you didn't want to publish but you had to. Oh, that's a good question. Anything that you've had to publish and you didn't really want to?
I didn't want to, but I had to. Usually, if I don't want to, I don't. So I don't know. I mean, I've had other people publish my photos and they weren't supposed to. Magazine in Spain that I tried to sue out. And that was a kiss shot.
Have you ever had that thing where you send through a gallery of photographs for an artist and there's always like a couple that you kind of just, you don't love them, but you send them anyway, and they're the 2 photos that they'll post and you're like, I didn't even really like them. Why did I send them? They seem to pick the ones, the stragglers, and they're just like, yeah, we love them. And you're like, oh my God, I actually don't even like those photos.
It's...
You have to get really selective. Yes, every single time. Yeah. That's so funny. Awesome. Well, shall we wrap it up, Steve? We've been here for a while. Nearly hour and a half. Oh my God.
Yeah. I apologize. I talk a lot.
No, I love it. It's great. Let's finish on this question. Best shot you've ever got that you couldn't publish. That's a good one because I think we've all got those shots that just either don't get approved and it's just soul destroying. Great question, Bill.
Yeah, it would probably be. I'm trying to think that I couldn't publish. It might be a kiss shot. Again, I usually, if I like it, I'm willing to publish it. I'm just trying to think. Maybe it might be a kiss shot that I had that I just, I loved it and I thought it was a great, oh, you know what? There's one, I thought it was a great shot. I don't like to do a ton of Photoshop. I mean, for a portfolio, I will, but for what I'm going to post for the radio station, I don't remove things or clone things. But there was a kiss shot where I had Paul Stanley, and I loved the shot. And it had fire behind him and sparklies in the, air behind his head. But, Paul Stanley's older now. And the folds in his arm made him look really old. And I loved the shot, but it's what we're talking about being flattering.
Yeah.
In my head, if I post that shot, it wouldn't be respectful of him unless I went in and cloned and fixed his arm. So I never posted.
Right. You never posted. That's a great answer. I think we've all been through that where there's just something that you just you can't fix, or sometimes you just can't get approval on something that you just really love,
Right.
which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, I think that's a great place to finish this chat today. It's been so lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and insight and
I pretend.
and friendship too. Friendship over the last 18 months. It's been really lovely to get to know you and be part of this amazing music photography community that's
By the way,
worldwide.
Before you finish, congratulations on your podcast. Everybody go.
Thank you.
say the name of the podcast so people can go subscribe.
It's called You're Killing It, and it's on all of your Apple Podcast and Spotify, and it's specifically we've just dropped 2. So good. Specifically about creatives and freelancers and just the weird stuff that we deal with in the world. So it's lots of fun. I'm really enjoying it. Good. Actually. It's really cool. We didn't even talk about your podcast. That was like a whole thing that we were going to talk about. We didn't even get to it. But Steve also
There's always another time.
Steve also we definitely have to get you on. It's called Behind the Shot podcast, isn't it? For people that want to.
Yeah, behindtheshot.tv.
Actually can pop there's an Instagram link that I'll pop if anyone wants to go and check out the Instagram. They can do that and follow you there. There you go. That was something that I was meant to talk about. We just got so involved in the chat. It's been really great. But we'll say goodbye to you. I'm going to hang around a bit, guys, if you want to hang on the stream for a bit longer, but we'll say goodbye to Steve. Thank you so much. I super appreciate the chat, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Sounds good. To everybody, I can't believe people tuned in to listen to us talk, but
it's been great.
It is so appreciated. I love the photography community, because really, honestly, name any other industry that has this kind of supportive community. I don't know of one.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think really in the last, definitely during COVID, I just feel like it's really come together. Like I've never really felt as included as I have in the last kind of 18 months, and it feels like a big, beautiful family, which is very cool. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for having me on, and I hope that you have a great day, because it's early for you.
It is. We're going to hang around, guys. We'll say goodbye to Steve now. Catch you later. Bye. Yay. That was fun. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. That was really great. Great chat. Steve is great. He's really awesome, and he does have an amazing podcast.